So the fellow came to the Rebbe, to the teacher. He's crying. What's the problem? Rebbe, I need you bracha. I need you blessings. What's the problem? My wife caused me so much sorrow. I feel so bad. It's so hard for me. So what do you want me to do? The Rebbe asked. If you want a bracha that she should shetamut. How do you say?
Stop.
So
no, we won't say that.
it reminded me of a movie many years ago. You most probably saw it. Amadeus, the life of Mozart.
Yeah.
So you see Salieri, the mediocre composer, Italian composer, who was extremely jealous of Mozart. And the way that they portrayed it is that he either killed him or he caused him to die. Mozart died very young, 34, 35. So anyway, so the Rebbe was thinking, and he said, well, I have a solution for you. He said, in a small shtetale, in our village, we are looking for a fellow that build a beautiful mikveh. Since you are well-to-do, here is the idea. You accept a vow upon yourself that you're going to build a gorgeous, beautiful mikveh. Right? $1 million mikveh.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And guess what's going to happen? You're not going to fulfill your vow. So, what did they say? If someone not fulfill his vow, we're going to study it today. One of the curses is that his wife is going to die. Has gehört? That's what the Rebbe said to him. The Rebbe's name is Reb Sholom Kaminke. It's the name of one of those Sederach. No, that's what's the wishes of some rich people, right? To get all the honor, all the recognition, to commit themselves, then they don't follow up with payment, and then the wife is gone. So guess what happened? The next day the guy came to shul, announced during the service that he's going to give huge sum of money to build a mikveh. Okay, time passed. The Gaboim came and said, no, what's going on? So the guy said, sorry. So they said, they show him the Gemarrah, they show him the place, they said that your wife is going, God forbid, to pass away. Comes home, the guy comes home every day, the same story. She's screaming, she's yelling at him, she put him down. Like Jackie Mason said, Jewish husband. Do you ever watch that?
Mm-hmm.
Jewish husband, the guy can make $250,000 out in a business. You walk in his own house, you can't touch anything, everything is for the guest, right? Anyway, so he came back to this Rebbe and he said, we make a deal. You told me to commit myself to build and not to follow up, and nothing happened, even worse. The Rebbe said, describe the race. It's very simple. I live in one floor, she's in a different floor. We don't talk to each other. Whenever she see my face, she scream at me. So the Rebbe said, no, that's not the way it should be done. The deal is that you have to respect her. You have to feel that she's really, really your wife, right? And then it will happen. Mm-hmm. Okay. The guy came back home. Now he's bringing a big bouquet of flowers, and he bring her cakes, and all the things and wine, whatever she wish. And he said, honey, we are now opening a new chapter. Next day, she bringing double. And they bringing each other. And 3 weeks later, everything is tremendous friendship and love in the house. Suddenly, she's sick. The guy came to the Rebbe and said, Oi, took a year to build a relationship, now to destroy the relationship. Now, the past month was so lovely and we love each other, everything is lovely. Now she's sick. What should I do now? The Rebbe said it's very simple. Pay the money you commit yourself for the mikveh, and you're done. So the Sons of Rebbe said, that's the beauty of great rabbis. They are able to do both. They are able to build a shalom bayis, and they are able to build a mikveh too, from one single person. Anyway, today we're going to speak about vows, and about how cautious, how careful, how circumspect we should be in every single words we are saying. Because the Torah said, it's better not to make a vow. But when you're making a vow, you are in a trouble. Because we take your word is your honor in Judaism. So I know a case, a guy who was driving for vacation in San Diego, and in the middle of the night, should never happen to anyone, he hit a curb, and the car was upside down, smoking. The guy was not religious, fellow Israeli. So he said, God, if you let me out of this, I promise I come to shul every single day. You wake up in a hospital. It turns that someone see the smoke car. He called, the helicopter came, broke the ceiling of the car, pulled him out. He was out of conscience. He wake up in a hospital. Now the guy said, "Oh, it's very hard." The rabbi said, "There's no way for you out. You know, you commit yourself. That's it, done." So, Vayidar Yaakov neder leimor in Parshat Vayetze in book of Bereshit. The Torah said that Yaakov Avinu, our forefather Jacob, made a vow. Usually we use the word leimor. Leimor vaydaber Hashem el Moshe leimor. God spoke to Moses saying, what is leimor in Yaakov? Yaakov was only talking to Hashem. So the Midrash said that this is a commitment for future generations, that in time of crisis, if it's absolute need, you commit yourself for a vow. By the same token, if you do that, people misconstrue the concept of Kol Nidrei, or the concept of Ataras Nedarim. In general, there are petach, there are tractates, but in general, there is no way. Anyway, we are the Mishnah, at the very bottom, last line of page 108b. המגרש את האישה והחזירה, מותרת ליבם. A fellow divorces his wife, and remarried her, and then died childless. So here, let's think together. What happened here? This fellow, let's call him Reuven, he married Tamar, then he divorced her. Then he brought her back. The Torah tells us, we studied yesterday, as long as she's not married anyone else, he can have her back. Correct? Now, the problem is that this fellow Reuven, he died childless. So the question is, he has a brother, Shimon, can he go ahead and do a Levirate marriage with her? So the Mishnah said, his wife is permitted to enter into Levirate marriage with her Yavam, meaning Shimon can go ahead and acted in a manner of Levirate marriage, which is marry the widow, the surviving brother. Rabbi Elazar, page 109. Rabbi Elazar oser. So the Gemara explained it, but in very general, Rabbi Elazar said as follows. Think with me. This fellow Reuven married Tamar, and let's say 20 years ago, they divorced. She received at that time, the moment that they divorced, a title. And that title is what? Divorce. Mm-hmm. Divorced woman. Mm-hmm. She had that motag, that title. Mm-hmm. At that very moment, let's think together. What happened with the divorced woman? The Torah law said in Leviticus 18, she cannot go ahead and marry the surviving brother. Meaning, At that time, after they divorced Reuven and Tamar have a total boundaries against Shimon, which means Shimon can not marry her. The circumstance change, and let's say months later, a year later, whatever it is, Reuven have her back as a wife. Rabbi Eliezer said, the moment she have the title of divorce, particularly from this original husband, that for everlasting put a boundary against his brother, surviving brother, that he for everlasting cannot act in levirate marriage. That's the prohibition of Leviticus 18 of the wife of the brother. Okay? וכן המגרשת היתומה. Yesterday we explained, if you have a minor girl, for example, she's 6 years old, and the family member can be the oldest brother, can be the mother, can be some immediate family, or even a relative that is in charge of this broken-hearted girl, young girl. The rabbis wanted to protect her. In order to do that, they designating husband for her. She is considering a married woman, even she is a minor. So no one can have any promiscuous or any illicit intent to cohabit with her. Okay, that's the protection. So the marriage is not biblical, it's rabbinic marriage in order to protect her. The idea is that this fellow, let's call his name, let's call him Reuven, he married this broken-hearted young minor, let's call her Sarah. Reuven married Sarah, she's 6, he is grown up. Okay? Now, for some reason, he divorced her. Let's say when she is now 11 years old. He divorced his wife, even she is under the category of minor. Remember, minor is below then 12 years and 1 day. But then, you have her back. So, the issue here, this fellow Reuven, he passed away childless. So now the Mishnah said, under this circumstance, muteret layavam, she allowed to have a levirate marriage. Regardless, listen carefully, if Reuven have her back as a minor, or even that happened when she passed the 12 years and 1 day. Why? Because the concept of married woman is in a point of departure of rabbinic married woman. And therefore the whole idea of biblical marriage that have a certain restrictions when it's come to a levirate marriage has no application in this case. Rabbi Elazar oser. Rabbi Elazar have the same mindset. Now you guys help me. Why Rabbi Elazar prohibited? The same story, which is what?
Well,
help me.
Prohibited to the Yavam?
Why? Because Rabbi Elazar have the same mindset, which is since she was once
married to
divorced, since she divorced one, I know it's early in the morning, since she divorced once, then forever. So Rabbi Eliezer have a mindset which makes a lot of sense in many ways. Rabbi Eliezer, he hold that the moment divorce took place, and guess what he said, makes no difference, biblical, rabbinic, whatever it is, the moment she have the title of divorce, it's over. Any manner of levirate marriage in the future is not applicable.
In
Clear?
the case of a minor married to a Kohen, who he then divorces,
We will deal with that, yes.
We're dealing with that? Okay, because
yes,
that was a question about Truma, so.
Yeah, we talked a little bit yesterday, if you remember. We differentiate between the period of time when it happens, but we're going to discuss later too.
Because I mean, I think it would be related. I mean, if it's
be related to, yes.
Yeah, because I mean, if he's considered divorced once, then she wouldn't be entitled to her father's truma either, right?
In general, Eliezer holds that way. Anyway, קטנה שסייעה אביה והתגרשה, this is a little different. We explain in the past several days that biblically speaking, the father have quote unquote right over his daughter. In that sense, biblically speaking, a girl is part of the father property as a minor, and then she transfer her right to the husband, biblically speaking, correct?
Correct.
So in that sense, the father went ahead and he married his minor daughter.
Married her off, yeah.
Now she divorced, ונתגרשה.
And is she still a minor, or is she over 12 now at this point that she's divorced?
In that sense, we hold first that she's a minor.
That she's still a minor. Okay.
Yes. In general, we're going to study in Tractate Tuvot, page 43b, two things. Number one, the father allowed to marry his daughter only once.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, the moment he married her, he released his full rights over her.
And even a get doesn't bring her back. So,
meaning, it's over.
right.
So in that sense, the Mishnah said, Ki toma bechayei ha'av. So we treated her as what? As the orphan during the lifetime of her father. As the father no longer has the right to marry her off, and she cannot become fully married because she is a minor. Vehechzira, meaning the husband have her back and he passed while she is a minor. Divrei hakol asura layavam. So everyone agrees that she is prohibited to the yavam, and she cannot have any manner of Levite marriage, and even the sages agreed in that way. Why? Because the original marriage that completed with a divorce take an effect by the biblical terms. The second marriage take an effect only by rabbinic law. So the first marriage took place by the affirmations of the father. And therefore the Torah said that the father has the right to marry his daughter, as we said, the Gemarrah in Ketubot 46b. So therefore the manner of divorce is also biblical. So since the second marriage is rabbinic, because the moment the father married off his daughter, she's out of his domain, and she cannot betroth herself when she is in the category of a minor, which is, biblically speaking, she's still considering as a divorcee, and therefore she is prohibited to her yavam, to the surviving brother, to marry, because it's called grushat achiv, the divorcee of his brother. Since here the manner of Levite marriage is rabbinic, that it's a consequence of what? Of the second marriage that taken effect only by rabbinic law. So therefore the rabbinic law cannot override, cannot supersede the biblical precepts.
Aren't the Chachamim concerned about the welfare of the young girl in this situation, because she can't return to the father,
So
can't
Rashi
return to
said-
the husband, so she's all alone.
So Rashi said, it's a good question. Rashi said that here we're talking about a situation that the husband passed away when his wife is still in a manner of category of minor, because, listen, because if she become a bogeret, meaning gdola, meaning past
Right.
12 years and 1 day at the life for the husband, so the first cohabitation between the two is for the manner of betrothed, manner of kiddushin, and therefore she is, biblically speaking, his wife. So therefore it's the same manner as the regular husband and wife, that he divorced her and have her back, because in that case, according to the sages, she can have a ייבום. So here you see, if she's in a category of minor, we do want to protect her, but we believe since she went through that turmoil, there is a concept that's called apotropos, that the Beit Din appointed some trustworthy,
like an advocate or a guardian or something.
Yeah, guardian. Like in our modern days, you have an attorney that
they call him an advocate.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So it just seems by not permitting it to go back to either in ייבום or in or not permitting her to go to her father, she's in the state of limbo, and essentially, I mean.
Yeah. Soon you see one of those painful cases. Good morning. We have Kohanim this morning, so we are in a good shape. Okay, Gemarrah. Omar Eifa. Eifa, Rashi said, is the name of Chacham, Eifa ben Rachva, that he was one of the shrewdest men in the city of Pumpedita. Maita Amad de Rabbi Lazar. What's the rationale? What's the idea of Rabbi Lazar? So, Rabbi Lazar tells us, Ho'il ve'amda alav sha'a achad b'isura, since she was even for short time in a manner of isur ייבום, meaning since the first kiddushin, the first betrothal, ended by what? With the bill of divorce, with the get. So since she was once divorced, that's already put the boundaries around Shimon. So here you see a total new avenue, Shita Chadasha, which is, up to this point we understand that Zikaban is basically happened when the moment the brother passed away, and now we go way backward, which is, listen carefully how sophisticated is this Eifa. This great sage said, the moment Reuven married, let's call her Sarah, that very moment, guess what happened? Yesh Zika. You remember that disputation, Yesh Zika and Zika? The moment, not now, not in a manner of divorce. Oh, go back, maybe 25 years ago. The moment you have two brothers, Reuven and Shimon, and Reuven marry Sarah, that very moment they're under the chuppah and he betrothed her, is automatically a zikah bond between Sarah and Shimon. Then he said, the moment during the act of marriage, no matter when it happens, if it is a week or 20 years, if Reuven divorced Sarah, that zikah cut, stop, and that wire is cut and you cannot put it back. Okay? Amru le'Rabbanan le'ifa. The sages hear that. The sages of Pumpedita.
So he's saying in all cases, no matter whether she was a minor or not, just as soon as she's divorced, regardless of whether the husband takes her back, the zikah, there's no zikah. Ain zikah. Okay.
Amru le'Rabbanan le'ifa. The sages respond to Eifa and they said, Ihachei. If that's the idea of Rabbi Lazar, guess what? וחליצה נמי לא תיבאי. So why you need to release her? It's like all the other erva. That the moment you have erva that fall before ייבום, so she goes without וחליצה and without ייבום. וכי תימה הכי נמי. And if you tell me that that's the way it should be done, והתניא משום רבי אלעזר אמרו חולצת, there is a brighter, a different source, that tells us that if you have a case of a woman that divorced from her husband, and then she didn't marry anyone, and later on they make peace and they have it back, and then the husband passed childless, still Rabbi Elazar hold that she need chalitza, she need a release. אלא אמר איפה, look how honest is he. He said, רבי אלעזר, לא ידענה מה איתמה. Guess what? To me, it's something that inscrutable. I have no idea. I don't know the rationale of Rabbi Elazar. Abaye entered to that discussion and he said, Amar Abaye, Hainu Tama de Rabbi Elazar. Let me try to give you the idea, the rationale of Rabbi Elazar. Mesapkale, he has a very serious dilemma, which is, what is the exact moment I mitam apelet, I nisuin harishonim apilim. Meaning, is that the act of chibur, the connectedness between Shimon to the widow of Reuven, if that's the requirement of וחליצה, the passing of the late husband brought her the manner of ייבום, or the first marriage. אם מיתם הפלט, הרמיה קמי לייבום. Obviously she goes before him for Levirate act of marriage. אם נישואים הראשונים מפילים, if you tell me that we go by the retroactive act, which means we go by the assumption that the first marriage brought upon them the whole matter of connectedness. We hold that even it was one single hour for that discussion, that it is a prohibited relationship.
1 second even.
1 second. So that moment, as we said, the wire cut. So therefore, Rabbi Elazar prohibited her to have any manner of ייבום, since it may happen that the first marriage mapilim, but by the same token, Rabbi Elazar said, in order to free her totally, she needs to receive וחליצה, because if you tell me that the passing is the cause, she still have zika, she still need a ייבום. Rava Amar, לעולם פשיטה לרבי אלעזר דמיתם הפלט. What's the zika ban? It's the passing of Reuven. ומיהו הכל בקיאים בגירושין ואין הכל בקיאים בחזרה. הוללה. So smart. Guess what? People hearing news, rumors, they talking. Guess what? Everybody in a city knows, in a community knows, that this guy Reuven, he divorced Sarah, his wife. Everyone knows. Guess what? Later on, he have her back. Most of the people not aware of that.
People like gossiping about bad news, not good news.
That's what Rashi tells us, right?
Yep.
So therefore, it may happen a michshol, it may have an issue of stumbling block, because at least it appear in the eye of people who are not educated that the brother, the surviving brother Shimon, he is in violation of Leviticus 18, which is marrying the wife of the brother. So Adrabah, so the Gemara said, no, the opposite. You're talking about bad news, good news? Chazara kevan liat vatutei itlekala. Says, no, the other way around. When he have her back, then everybody is talking about it. You know, you can go positive, you go negative. You can go the story of Boaz. You all know, right? The chapter 4 in the book of Ruth, that they only one night spent together. Right? So that's the response here, the Gemara. They said, Milo askina de hadra be'ota ushchiv betzafra. You know what happened? He divorced her. This Reuven with Sarah, he divorced her. And then he have her back. They spend a night, and the next morning he is gone. So if you talk about Boaz, he was a man at his 80s. Mm-hmm. He married Ruth. You remember that story? Mm-hmm. They have a baby, but they spend only one night, according to the way we understand the text. Mm-hmm. You can go negative. You all know the story we read in Purim, soon to be, with Shmuel, the prophet Samuel. Mm-hmm. and the king Agag, that King Saul did not kill him. He killed all the people, but he left Agag. And they said, because of one night, they have the Haman. They have the consequence of later on the Haman. So you can go either way. So the idea is, here we are speaking about situation that Reuven have her back, and then in the morning he passed. So then the return is unknown. So therefore now we understand it of Rabbi Eliezer, why he's not allowing the brother, the surviving brother Shimon, to have a Levirate marriage with the widow of Reuven. Now we go to the third explanation of Rabbi Eliezer. Rav Ashi Amar, Hainu Tama de Rabbi Eliezer. This is the rationale of Rabbi Eliezer. The Gazar Hani, he is putting a decree in this circumstance, which is those divorcee that have back, Mishum Yetoma Bechaye Ahav Vehechezira. She is a orphan during the lifetime of the father, and she divorced, and he have her back, that therefore she is prohibited to have a ייבום by the biblical terms. And then we put a decree for every woman because of the original case of this minor orphan. So that we understand the third circumstance from the last clause of the Mishnah. You have a minor girl, the father married her off, and then after the marriage was not successful for a long time, and she got divorced, ki toma b'chayav. She is now receive a category as a minor girl, but in the life of the father. Vehechzira, and then he passed. Divrei hakol she'asura layavam. As we said earlier, by everyone, all the sages agree that she is now prohibited to her in-laws. Hai maile meimra. Why the Mishnah tells us pshita? Because it's obvious the moment the father married her off. You remember the Gemarrah in Ketubot who mentioned earlier, the moment the father married her off, she is out of his domain. So he cannot come back and marry her. So therefore, by the biblical terms, she is considering as a grusha, a divorce. So then it's obvious that she is prohibited to her yavam by the biblical terms. El alava kamash melan. So therefore, what we understand, Tama de Rabbi Eliezer. Tama de Rabbi Eliezer, the reason that Rabbi Eliezer prohibited the manner of ייבום in the two circumstances, the Gazar Hanach Mishum Hai. He juxtaposed, he learned from those cases of women that divorce and have it back, in comparison, in analogy, comparing to the orphan life of the father that have it back shmamina. That's the way we derive the rationale of Rabbi Eliezer. Now we bring a proof from the Braita to this mindset of Rav Ashi. Tanya kvatei de Rav Ashi. מודים חכמים לרבי אלעזר בקטנה שהסיעה אביה ונתגרשה. The sages concede to Rabbi Eliezer concerning a minor girl whose father married her off and who was divorced. הרי כי תומה בחייו, we treated her as an orphan during the lifetime of her father. והחזירה, and if he ever back and he passed, שאסורה ליבם, she is prohibited to her יבם, מפני שגירושיה גירושים גמורים, that they have חלות, they have fulfillment by the biblical term. As Rashi said, this is a disputation between Rashi and Ritva. Rashi said that it's בכלל לא חזרה, it cannot any manner of return. Ritva said it is a chazara, but not gmura. It's not total. Ve'en chazarata gmura. Because her remarriage was not a full-fledged remarriage. So she is still a minor. So what do we understand from that? That Rabbi Lazar's ruling is, we treated that girl as an orphan in her father's lifetime. That was the reason for that decree. במה דברים אמורים? When is the ruling of the sages that she is prohibited to her yavam? שגרשה כשהיא קטנה. He married this girl, poor girl, right? And she's a minor. And then he divorced her while she's a minor. והחזירה כשהיא קטנה. And then, imagine, they married, she's 6 years old. He divorced her, she's 9 years old. Then when she's 10 years old, he have her back. It's all during the course of time that she's under the category of a minor. אבל גרשה כשהיא קטנה. However, if he divorced her while she is a minor, והחזירה כשהיא גדולה, and you have her back when she passed the age of 12 years and 1 day, אינה מהחזירה כשהיא קטנה וגדלה אצלו ומת, or you have her back while she's still a minor, and then she grew up by him, and then she passed the age of 12 years and 1 day, but he passed away and is no children, childless, או חולצת, או בהתייבמת. So then you have the second marriage have the effectiveness of a biblical terms, and therefore we believe that it has the chalot kiddushin, they have the fulfillment of a manner of betrothed, and therefore we treated this a biblical term. So they have these options of either וחליצה or ייבום. משום רבי אלעזר אמרו חולצת ולא מתייבמת, as we explain all the times. The idea of Rabbi Lazar, it's because you have all these quandaries here, all these unknown states. So Rabbi Lazar said that since there is a term that this Levirate marriage, it may be in a violation of a biblical precept, then I requesting here in this case to have a release of וחליצה, and that's it, but not ייבום. בעמיני רבא מרב נחמן. So since we hold by Rabbi Lazar that is prohibited to have any manner of ייבום if a divorcee have back, again, to make sure that everyone understands it. What Rabbi Lazar tells us? Rabbi Lazar tells us the moment she have, even for short time, even for one night, a title of divorcee, then it's over. She can no longer for everlasting have any manner of Levirate marriage with the surviving brother. So now he go to the next step, which is tzarata mahu. If there is a manner of rival, of co-wife, meaning more than one wife, how we treated her in that sense? Can we say that that's applicable or not applicable? Did they have to exercise the Levirate marriage, release, or nothing? So, in general, you may think that the ייבום, the Levirate marriage, may apply to that case, which is the rival wife, the co-one. אמר לי, היא גופה גזירה, the whole point of prohibited this divorcee, that she was returned, is rabbinic decree, because of the orphan during the minor orphan during the lifetime of the father. וענן נקום ונגזור גזירה לגזירה, since that grusha, that divorcee that returned, is under the category of erva, and the only prohibition is rabbinic, so therefore the rival, the co-wife, is not considering a tzarat erva. So therefore, so Rashi explains that since she's only prohibited because of the rabbinic decree, if we add boundary around the boundary, it's too much. It's something that we don't do. So therefore, והתניא משום רבי אלעזר אמרו, היא וצרתה חולצת, when we require a release, it's applied not only to her but also to co-wife. So he said, you cannot say היא וצרתה סלקא דעתך. So the only matter of וחליצה applied to one, as we learned earlier. אלא לאו, או היא, או צרתה חולצת. You mean to say that either her or the co-wife need to do וחליצה? לאו תרוצי כמתרצת. So they said, you do not have neither resolution for either one of them. Taritz hacha, you should reconcile as follows. He choletzet, this divorcee that have returned to her original husband, she have the וחליצה, the release. צרתה, however, the co-wife, או choletzet, or מתייבמת. Either perform וחליצה, or enter into a levirate marriage. So therefore, if the Yavam wants to deal with those divorcees that have a back, he needs specifically to do וחליצה to her, and therefore he exempts the co-wife. But he cannot do ייבום. And if he wants to do with the co-wife, he can either release her or make a ייבום, and therefore he exempt the other one, the divorcee. That's the way Rashi explained. So therefore, in that case, the co-wife, the tzara, doesn't have any prohibition of ייבום to this brother. Now the Mishnah dealing with a several ruling applies to rabbinic marriages. Shnei achim, two brothers, nesu'in lishtei achayot ktanot. You have two sisters, both are minors, and the father of those twin, or those two sisters, not twin, but two sisters, he passed away. And then the mother of those girls, or the brother, married these two minor to other two brothers by what? By the rabbinic rule of marriage. Remember, we want to have those minor protected, so we marry them off as a minor, but that marriage takes effect only by rabbinic rulings. Umet ba'ala shel echat mehen. One of the brothers, one of the husbands of these two minor girls, passed away childless. Haleizu, the Vilna Gaon take out the word haleizu. Okay, so the one who the husband passed away, teitze, she did not receive neither ייבום nor וחליצה, משום אחות אישה, because this is one of the category of Leviticus 18, that she is the sister of the wife of that Yavam. So therefore, the achot isha is considering arayot, and she is not befitting for ייבום. So since the marriage of these two sisters, they are minors, so that marriage is rabbinic only. So therefore, the zikah, the bond between the wife of the deceased and the Yavam, the brother-in-law, that zikah bond is only rabbinic. And therefore, the whole idea of the sister of the wife is also rabbinic. So Meiri explained, Isur erva de Rabbanan, the rabbinic prohibition of arayot, this exempt her from zikah bond, that it's all under the canopy, under the ruling of rabbinic rule. V'chen shtei chershot. The next case is very painful. You have two sisters that unfortunately are deaf-mute women. So the status is like that of two minors in that manner, and their marriages are valid by rabbinic law. And if the two brothers were married to two sisters, one of them gdola uktana, one of them is growing up and one of them it's a minor. So growing up, the marriage have an effect biblically. The one who is a minor has an effect only by rabbinic. Med bala shel ktana, if the husband of the minor passed away, which again, that marriage is only rabbinic. Tetzea ktana, that minor come out with neither ייבום or וחליצה, משום אחות אישה, because the prohibition of marrying the sister of the wife is biblical. So you see here that since the marriage of the oldest one has a biblical effect, the minor is prohibited on him because that's considering ervat achot isha, which is biblical, and therefore she is exempt from both, from ייבום and וחליצה. מת בעלה של גדולה, if the husband of the older sister, which is a biblical, passed away, and he passed away childless, and therefore the wife come before ייבום with the husband of the minor. Now you have the issue of achot isha by rabbinic term. So the question is, the zikat ייבום is biblical, but the isur erva, the idea of arayot, is only rabbinic, and rabbinic cannot override the biblical term. So the question is how you treated that case. So now you have three views. First, Rabbi Eliezer said something that makes a lot of sense. Melamdin et haktana shetema bo. He said that we instruct the minor, which is his wife, to refuse him. So what are you doing by that? That her marriage is dissolved, and he may enter into a Levite marriage with her adult sister, the widow of his childless brother. So you see here, the moment is not his wife, he can go ahead and do ייבום. Rabban Gamliel said, im me'ana me'ana. So I explained in my book, you have here a very interesting Rashi. Rashi said, רבן גמליאל אומר, אין זיקתה אוסרת את זו, ברבן גמליאל סובר אין זיקה, כלומר לא עלימה זיקה. So I explained earlier in my book on page 83, and page 26, I'm sorry, in the beginning of chapter 3, that the whole concept of zika. So you have zika chamura and you have zika kala. This cannot be zika chamura because the whole issue here is if you do that, then you're prohibited all the relatives, all the close relatives here. But the idea here, the Rabban Gamliel tells us that you don't teach the minor to refuse the husband, because if she's refused, she have to initiate that. Me'ana. So the moment she did it, she uprooted the marriage, and he can do a ייבום with her sister. V'im lav, if she's not initiated the refusal from her husband by herself, tamtin al shetagdil, she needs to wait a period of time until she reach the age of maturity, which is 12 years and 1 day. And then she's considering by biblical terms a marriage. V'teitzei halazo, and the older sisters will be released without neither ייבום nor וחליצה, mishum achot isha, because the Torah tells us that this minor is married him by the biblical term, and she is prohibited because ervat achot isha, that it's a biblical. Now Rabbi Yoshua is the third view. Rabbi Yoshua אומר, היא לא על אשתו, היא לא על אשת אחיו. He said, woe of his wife. Why? Because if you have yesh zika, the term, so he cannot live with his wife. If you have the other one, yesh zika, so you have zika from in the biblical term. So this is achot zkukato. This is the sister of his zkuka. So the second one, the second wife, is basically by rabbinic term. So therefore, by force of circumstance, מוציא את אשתו בגט, he must release his own wife with a bill of divorce, and ואשת אחיו בחליצה, and his brother's wife, he need to do a וחליצה release. So what we see, that the married to his wife cannot stay married because she is the sister of his Yevamah, and he cannot enter into a Levite marriage with the Yevamah even after divorcing his wife, because the Yevamah is his wife's sister. So you see, the issue here, it's since Rabbi Yoshua hold that we hold the zikah ban, yesh zikah, so therefore his wife is prohibited to him because she's a chod zkukato, so she cannot stay by him until she reached the age of maturity. So you cannot teach her to act in a manner of refusal to her husband. So therefore, he have no choice by force of circumstance. He need to divorce his wife with a regular get, and the Yevamah remain prohibited to him because this achot grusha miderabanan. That's what Rashi said. So the Gemara challenged that, and they said, "Umi sharei." So you meant to tell me that you allowed to go ahead and teach a minor girl to refuse her husband? Is it permitted to instruct her to refuse? והתנא בר כפרה, לעולם ידבק אדם בשלושה דברים, ויתרחק משלושה דברים. So there's the three things a person should be attached to, cleave to, and three things he should stay away from. ידבק בשלושה דברים, he should stick to three principles. Number one, וחליצה, to do וחליצה not ייבום. Number two, והבאת שלום, to bring peace between man and his fellow. ובהפרת נדרים, הפרת נדרים, which means to annul vows. And the other way around, ויתרחק משלושה דברים, a person should stay away from three things. Number one, mina amiun, from their refusal. Umina pikdonot, that people give you money to watch over. Umina ervonot, and also to be a co-signer. So for the loan that someone else gets. So since you want to avoid any manner of refusal, how come Rabbi Eliezer said that you teaching this minor, you instructing her to refuse her husband? So the Gemara responded and said, mi'un, the mitzvah shani, a refusal for a mitzvah, you treat it in a very different way, which is, as this refusal is performed to allow a mitzvah of Levite marriage to be fulfilled with the other sister, so you treat it in a different way. So we said, Gufa, Tane Bar Kapara, now we deal more with Kapara statement, Lo'olam yidbak adam b'shlosha dvarim, and one of the three is וחליצה. So now the Gemara comment on that, something that we, if you remember, we learn it on page 39. כאבא שאול דתניא, אבא שאול אומר, הכונס את יבמתו לשם נוי. Abba Shaul said, you know what's my problem with all these men of Levite? If the guy is married this girl, this widow, because he just wants her beauty. He wants all his friends, Gilbert, to say how beautiful is his newly wife. Okay? Or Leshem Ishut. He just wants to be married to someone. Leshem Davar Acher. He wants her money. He wants to marry her bank account. Right? You know anybody like that? He have other motivation. So Abba Shaul comes in and says, guess what? Remember the original conflict. The original conflict is Leviticus 18, that have a list of abomination we read on Yom Kippur afternoon. And you have Deuteronomy 25 that said, you have a mitzvah to redeem the soul of the deceased, of the brother that died childless. So in one, Leviticus 18 said that you cannot marry the wife of your brother. And the same token the Torah said in Deuteronomy 25 that it's a mitzvah to redeem the soul, to perpetuate the soul of the deceased that died childless. So how you reconcile it? So Abba Shaul come in and said, hey, if this guy, he is acting in a manner of Levite marriage because he wants her money, her beauty, or just to have a wife, כאילו פוגע בערווה, he is, to me I treated as some in a violation of Leviticus 18, which is marrying the wife of his brother, וקרוב בעיניי להיות הוולד ממזר. That's a very strong statement. And he said, in my eyes, it is as if he is having intercourse with the woman that forbidden to him. And therefore, the offspring in my eyes is illegitimate, is a mamzer. So it is preferable that one perform וחליצה and avoid the ייבום, if it's not sincere intent. The majority of the sages disputed Abba Shaul, and they hold that this manner of ייבום, it's in effect anyway, without connectedness to the intent of the Yavam, which means that because the Levirate marriage, the mitzvah of ייבום, take precedent before the mitzvah of וחליצה. That's the way the Meiri explained. So we understand the first concept, which is the וחליצה, and number two, בהבאת shalom, that person should bring peace between man and his fellow. Right, Dr. Friedman? The source for that is the book of Tehillim, chapter 34, good morning, chapter 34, Bakesh shalom verodfeu, bringing peace, seek peace, but not only seek peace, King David tells us, and pursue it, which means that this is a mitzvah to bring in peace between man and his fellow, but not only bring in peace, but to be active, as the Rif said, actively pursue peace. Kufte Talmud Bet 109b. Ve'amar Rabbi Abba, so Rashi tells us the source is the Gemarrah in Kiddushin, Tractate Kiddushin, page 40, and it's also a Mishnah that we recite every morning in the Tractate Pe'ah. By bringing peace and pursuing peace, they use the term Sachar Gadol, the receiving a great reward. That yes, we're not doing things in order to get rewards, but it's a concept that people will appreciate, which is the principle, as you know, in the business world, the principle and the interest. So in that sense, we believe that we have the principle and the interest in the Olam Haba. Now we learn a verbal analogy, a juxtaposition between the two terms that repeat itself in different sources. Atia redifa, redifa. It's written the word pursue twice, and we learn it from Gmilut Chasdim, loving kindness. Ktiv hacha, bakesh shalom, verodfehu. וכתיב התם רודף צדקה וחסד ימצא חיים צדקה וכבוד. So you see the word redifa, to pursue, twice. So the Maharsha said, why you need it twice? It's like superfluous. But the idea, in short, is to emphasize. Yes, in one hand, we have the concept of schar mitzvah be'alma. We don't expecting to get a reward in this world. But the reality is that people expecting. There are people whom, as we said many times, enter the shul with a laundry list. I did so and so, and I'm expecting so and so. So Tosfot tells us, I'll just give you the vignette. He said, the truth is, if you're quoting, you have to do the entire text. So Tosfot want to emphasize that here they want to speak about ahavat shalom, the love of kindness. It's a story about the Chafetz Chaim. I know that David likes stories of Chafetz Chaim. So the story goes, it was a Purim. And on Purim, as you know, some yeshiva bochrim gets drunk. So it was one fellow, one yeshiva bocher that went to Chafetz Chaim, and he was a little off. And he went to Chafetz Chaim and he said that he wants him to promise him that he will have a chair next to him in a Olam Haba. So the Chafetz Chaim said, all right, if you will be a man that pursue peace and you commit yourself not to speak Lashon Hara, you'll have it. So it was a moment silent, and the guy was like half drunk or whatever, and he walked out, he backed off. So the Chafetz Chaim said, isn't that sad? He said, Yesh me'abed olamo b'sha'a achat. This was your opportunity, you missed it. Anyway, the Afarat Nedarim, the second one is, כרבי נתן, דתניא רבי נתן אומר, הנודר כאילו בנה במה. We know that the temple in Jerusalem is the centerpiece for the sacrificial offering, and that's the center that people brought their offering to God. Now, it was a temporary tabernacle, temporary temple that used for a certain period of time. The moment you have a temple, existing permanent temple in Jerusalem, everything else was prohibited. So in that sense, anyone who offered a sacrificial offering that was out of the premises of the temple, was in a violation. That's what we study in Tractate Megillah, page 9. So we, in our sense, figuratively, juxtapose the manner of violation, making a vow to someone who building an altar inappropriately. V'hamekaimo. In the same manner, if someone who fulfill, good morning, Steve, is someone who fulfill his vow, and כאילו הקריב עליה קורבן. So this is, in a sense, after you are in violation, you should go before a erudite sage, and he will abrogate those vow. So someone who build a false altar and then put an offering on that, he is in a violation. Number one, that he built an altar. Number two, that he build a alien, inappropriate offering. So therefore, that's the idea here. Number one, someone who make a vow. Number two, that after he made a vow, he should go before the. So the Ran, Rabbeinu Nissim in Tractate Nedarim, explained to us that in one hand, korbanot, having a sacrificial offering, is a positive thing. We have a book of Leviticus for that. But the question is, how you do that? You do it properly or improperly? If you do it in a Beit HaMikdash, it's great. If you do it in a Bama, it's a problem. The same here. When a person like Yaakov Avinu commit himself to some vow, is good, but if is in general making such a oath or vow is a problematic, especially if it's a question of following up. So again, in a mindset, in a general concept, a person should not be impetuous with making those vows, because in Judaism we take it very seriously. In general, we should know, in Judaism, unlike other cultures that they're going only by contract and signing contract, otherwise there's a hearsay evidence, by us, your word is your honor. And the highest form of commitment in Judaism is, let's see if we know, is shaking hands. Shaking hands by Judaism is more than a contract. Anyway, v'yitrachek mishlosha dvarim, a person should stay away from three things. Number one, min hami'unim, which is the idea of refusal. As we explained, the whole concept of these chapters is the idea that she have the right to refuse the marrying her off in doing the area of being a minor. Dilma gadla umichartabe. Guess what happened with this girl? She's a baby, right? Then she get to bat mitzvah age, and then she rejecting him, and then she grow up, and guess what happens sometimes? She realized that the new one is not good, and she feel bad. So maybe she go to the age of maturity. She's now rejecting this husband. Oh, I was a baby when they married me off. I was 6. I didn't know what I'm doing. I'm now 12 years of age. Forget it. So now she's turned 16 or 20, and she married by the biblical term, the Oraita, the regular guy. And then she, you know what happens to people, she tried to compare him to her previous husband, and she started figuring out that that she made a mistake, and then the second one realized that it's a problem, and then she wants to have a get from the second one in order to have her back. It's all mixed up, the Meiri said. So, and there's the issue of Machzir Grushato Misheni said that the moment she married the second one, it's an issue. Even you tell me that the first one was rabbinic, the second one is biblical, but you have already issue because the guy is biblically bury her, the second one. So therefore, don't start up with this miunim. Umina pikdonot, meaning this is something that we have to be very careful. When someone said, take this, can be valuable item or money or whatever it is, and said, have it, save it for me. Save this money or save this item or save this valuable thing for me. So, bevar mata, which means if you live in the same residence, in the same city, devaitei ki baitei dame. So it may happen for some people who are unscrupulous, they can come back, they know exactly where you're hiding that item, and they come back and steal it, and then they sue you, take you to court and said, I gave you something to safeguard me, you didn't watch that, I want it back, and you lost it, so I want you to pay me. Third one, umina eiravon, to be a co-signer, to sign for someone else. Meaning, be'arvei shel Tzion. Shel Tzion, that was the name of location, that in those days it was a tradition that the lender give to a borrower, and he collected from someone else. Rashi called it, used the word shlof dos, sholef atzmo milovev toker atzmo la'orev. That's so bad, which is, what happened is, people, they figure out, Reuven is a friend of Shimon, and now you have Levi, who is a stranger, who is a co-signer. Reuven needs the money from Shimon, so you figure out, why should I break up my friendship with Shimon? Let me go directly after Levi. The truth of the matter, what should process take place, is Shimon is the one who borrowed the money, and Shimon is the one responsible. But since Levi is a co-signer, and Reuven doesn't want to have a fight with Shimon, or break up the friendship, he go to Levi. So my advice, don't go there to be co-signer, because then there are some nasty people that behave in that manner. What does that mean? They said in the book of Proverbs, chapter 11, רע ירוע כערב זר, ושונא תוקעים ובוטח, רעה אחר רעה תבוא למקבלי גרים. Here they speak about people, meaning they can be a rabbis or teachers, that they accepted people to Judaism without going to a dual process, which means you go, for example, to a non-Jews and convince them to convert to Judaism, pursuing them to do it, or you accepting them without the process of rejection, which is the part of a requirement, the bet din. Tosfot said that it can go also the other way around, that for those who rejected sincere convert, that evil befall upon them, that's the text said, if they rejected constantly, adamantly, sincere potential of Geirim. And the same arvei shel Tzion, as we explained, for a foreign, for another person, okay? So later Gemara explained, מקבלי גרים, כרבי חלבו דאמר, חלבו קשים גרים לישראל כספחת באור. That's something that we learn many times. For example, on page 47b. There's a few avenues why, but the key is the way that is common explanation. It's because, like Yonah, Hanavi, the prophet Jonah, he was afraid to go to Nineveh because if they do teshuvah, then it creates some type of decree against us. Look what happened to people who are not part of us, and now they become, in a way, more observant and more scrupulous in mitzvot than us. And they said what happened to people who are, what is called, from birth. Yeah. They do not have, anyway, arvei shel Tzion de'avdei shlof dots, that's what we read Rashi, שולף עצמו מללווה ותוקע עצמו לערב, תוקע עצמו לבר הלכה דתניא, רבי יוסי אומר, כל האומר, אין לו תורה, אין לו תורה. So, פשיטה, אלא כל האומר אין לו אלא תורה, אין לו אלא תורה. הנמי פשיטה, אלא דאפילו תורה אין לו. So it's like some people, I'm sorry to use this example, I'm just using it for they go to some schools, seminaries, colleges, and they study Torah for fun, just for intellectual curiosity. They have no intent to fulfill the mitzvot, they have no intent to follow up their studies. Their only purpose is their self-glorification, intellectual curiosity, etc. So here, they don't have neither the reward nor the schar of Torah. My tama, why don't get the reward even for the study itself? Amar Rav Papa, Amarka, ulmadtem va'asitem. That's in Deuteronomy chapter 5. You should learn in order to fulfill. Kol sheyeshno ba'asiya, yeshno bilmidah, kol sheyeshno ba'asiya, yeshno bilmidah. That's what we daven every day before Shema. Lilmod ulelamed, lishmor ve'lasot. We pray that that God grant us the understanding in order to do what? To fulfill the mitzvot and to teach others. So it means if you study not for the purpose of fulfillment, you do not have even the schar, even the reward of study Torah itself. ואי טעימה is another avenue, לעולם קדם ברית ומעיקרא. כל האומר אין לו אלא תורה, אין לו אלא תורה, לא צריכה דקמי גמר לאחרינא ואז אל ועבדי. מה עוד תימאית לאגרא לדידי כמה שמלן? You have a guy that he is an excellent preacher. He can teach everyone how to do right things, and people follow him. The problem is, he himself did not practice what he is preaching. So you may think that he gets a reward just by teaching. So the Gemara said, no. Tosfot tells us here, I'll just give you the vignette again. The Asis Gemarrah in Yoma said in 87, כל המזכה את הרבים אין חן בא לידו, דמפרש את המעתם שלא יאמרו הרב בגיהינום ותלמידו בגן עדן. You tell me the Rav is in Gehinom and all his students is in Gan Eden. So the Tosfot here is a fascinating Tosfot. We don't have the time. I just want to add the vignette from the Ktav Sofer. The Ktav Sofer said, the pasuk tells us in Venasi ki yechta le'ashmat ha'am, when you have the president, the head of the community that committed a sin, for the ashma, for the guilt of the people. So he said, the fact is that ha'am lo shomea, that people not listen, so people don't listen to him, so therefore he doesn't have zikuy arabim, he doesn't have the merit of the zchut, the privileges of people, so therefore יכול לחטוא. That's the כתב סופר. Anyway, ובהתאמה תוקע עצמו לדבר הלכה בדיין הדעת דינא לקמי וגמר הלכה. You have a judge that rule in the court, ומדע ממילתא למילתא. ואית לרבה, ולא אזיל משיל, אמר רב שמואל בר נחמני, אמר רבי יונתן, אולם יראה דיין עצמו כאילו חרב מונח לו על בין ירחותיו, וגינו פותח לו מתחתיו. I wish that the judges feel that way. They said that the dayan, the real judge in the court, should feel that like the sword is on his throat from punishment of Hashem in this world and the world to come. שנאמר, they said in Song of Songs, chapter 3, הנה מיתתו שלי שלמה, this is the Beit HaMikdash, the holy temple built by King Solomon, 60 גיבורים, 60 judges, סביב לה מגיבורי ישראל, the circle around the bed, that's what we said before go to sleep, right? That they are from the mighty of Israel, and the end of the line it says mipachad baleilot, from the fear of the nights. So this is a figurative term which is using of euphemism, meaning mipachad shel gehinom shedome lelayla, that the metaphor of Gehinom, it's similar to the night. So Rabbi Shmuel ben Nachmani understands that the mighty man of Israel in this verse to refer to the judges who sit in judgment around the bed of Solomon, which is in the Beit HaMikdash, in the temple. So the truth is that Rashi said that Shishim Giborim is the Sanhedrin. Tosfot disputed. Tosfot said the Sanhedrin cannot be 60, they're more, the 71. So he said that that's applied to Shishim Ribo, the 60,000 people. But the truth is, a story about Rabbi Yisrael Zalman Meltzer, when they want to appoint him as a Rav, he said, I can't do that. He says, I'm afraid that I'll mess up, that I mislead people, I have too many fears. So the Rabbonim said to him, the greatest Rabbonim at that time, you have to do it for simple reason. They said, what are you expecting to be a Rav? Expecting someone who's a kal dat, someone who is a light-headed person? We need a person that constantly have a fear of punishment. That's the whole purpose. The truth is that if we have a little time, Maharam Shif, he said on the Tractate Sanhedrin, page 7, this is fascinating, Maharam Shif. He said, you see on one side cherev, a sword, a spear, and the other side you see Gehinom. So it's a famous midrash that said that they came before Avraham Avinu, and they asked him, what do you choose? Banecha chatu, you descendants of sin. So you have to choose either galut, exile, or Gehinom, and he chose galut. So anyway, Rabban Gamliel Omer, Ime'ana. So the Mishnah said it's three shitot, three different avenues. If she refused, so number one, it's talk about two married brothers who married two young sisters, or we have the second case of the deaf mute, the two sisters, or so it means if the husband passed away and is no children, so the second one, she have to be out of that Levirate marriage because she is the Achot Isha, the wife of the sister. And then we have the third example of Gdola and Ktana, the old and the young. So according to this explanation of Rabban Gamliel, even the minor girl was married originally by the rabbinic view, as we explained, a minor below than 12 years and 1 day. All these marriages are only rabbinic when she grew up, and she did not reject it, she did not refuse the original marriage that happened by her mother or brother to someone as an act of protection. Now her marriage turned from Rabbanan, from the rabbinic's marriage, to have the term of a biblical. So therefore, her sister is now prohibited to her in-law, to the Yabam, because that's Leviticus 18, which is the Achot Isha, the sister of the wife, which is the Oraita. So therefore, without וחליצה, without any manner of release, she can go ahead and marry someone outside of the family. באמינה מילי רבי אליעזר מרב. מה התאמה דרבן גמליאל? What's the reason, the rationale of רבן גמליאל? משום דקסבר קידושי קטנה נתלו, because he hold that betrothed of a young orphan, it still depended וכי גדלי בהדה. So now, when she grew up, her kiddushin come with her אף על גב דלא בעל. So this is one avenue. Let's understand it to make sure we all understand. You have a girl that lost her father, and she's 6 years old. And we are concerned that because she lost her father, may other men take advantage of this orphan and have all kind of illicit relation with her. So as a result, we appointed, it can be her mother, it can be her older brother, it can be other people that the Bedin appointed, to marry her off as a minor. That marriage has an effect only by rabbinic view and not biblical. She have the right of refusal when she reached the age of maturity, which is the bat mitzvah, 12 years and 1 day. Yet if she did not exercise her right, then her marriage turned from rabbinic to biblical marriage, the moment she grew up and she have the maturity point. So here the Gemara said on one side, even they don't have any manner of cohabitation between the husband and the minor, or Dilma, or the other way around, Mishum Bekasavar, because this Yavam, meaning the surviving brother of the deceased, because we are dealing with the case that there are two brothers, and the husband of this minor passed away with no children, and the brother of the deceased, the question is, can he exercise the Levirate marriage with her, since she had no cohabitation with him, but she passed the minority, she's now a mature adult, she passed the age of bat mitzvah. Mishum de kasavar mekadesh achot Yevama. If someone betrothed the sister of Yevama, which is the one who waiting for Levirate marriage, niftera Yevama ve'alcha la. I ba'al ein, I lo ba'al lo. It's only manner of cohabitation by virtue of rights. Marlei Rav respond to Rabbi Eliezer, Hainu ta'ama de Rabban Gamliel. He said, this is the Rabban Gamliel reasoning. The Shum de Kasavar, because Rabban Gamliel have the view, Hamekadesh Achot Yevama. If someone would betroth the sister of his Yevama, which is the one who's waiting to Levirate marriage, Niftera Yevama ve'alcha la. The Yevama is exempt and is released. So if they have engaged with a cohabitation, so therefore with the sister after she reached a majority, then yes. Or if they, so she is exempt from Levirate marriage. But if it's not engaging in that matter of intercourse with the sister after she reached majority, the Yevama is not exempt. Amarav Sheshet, Amina. I said to Rav, Kinaim v'shachiv. Rav amar la lahashmata. This is like, it's a term that they want to say, you can say politely, or you can take it in the many terms. We use that once on page 91. He says, like, when he said that, he was dozing and lying down, because it's very difficult to say it. Why? The Tanya. Hamekadeshet aktana kiddushay tluyim. If someone betroth a minor girl, her betroth is in a matter of the suspension. You cannot say it is a permanent. Why? My tluyim. What do you mean by that? He says, Lav ki gadla gadlei bahada. Because the manner of betrothed will grow up with her, which means ve'af al gav de lo ba'al, even they do not reach the manner of relation. So you see here, this is not follow the Rav that said that betrothed of the minor, it's not go with her, and it's not any biblical term if there's no cohabitation. אמר לרבין ברי דרב נחמן, המילתא דקטנה מילתא טליה וקיימה. בעל אין לי לא בעל לא, ואמרה, היי עדיף מיני, because he can force me to divorce, וענה עדיפה מיני, and I have an advantage over him as I can refuse him. So since the marriage of a minor depends upon her ongoing consent, as she can refuse him at any time, so therefore it remains provisional until it's consummated when she is an adult. וסבר רב היא בעל אין, היא לא בעל לא, והאיתמר, we learn a disputation between המוראים, קטנה שלא מענה והגדילה, if you have a minor that she did not exercise the right of refusal, and now she grew up after her husband, and meaning she reached the age of maturity, ועמדה ונישאת, so without receiving a get from the original husband, meaning the husband that married her by the rabbinic law under the term of minor age, now she went ahead and married another man without receiving get from the first husband. Rav אמר אינה צריכה גט מן השני. Rav said, since the manner of betrothal is not in effect, therefore she doesn't need the get from the second one. ושמואל אמר צריכה גט מן השני. Shmuel said that she needs a bill of divorce from the second man. Yes, this is uncertain whether her second marriage is valid. Or you can say that those few that say that it is in effect and therefore she needs it. So 110. So now the Gemara elaborates on that contradiction. My love de lo ba'al. You have to say that there's no cohabitation. So therefore, the manner of kiddushin is biblical for the first one, and therefore you don't have tfisat kiddushin ba'eshetish since she's a married woman. So the married woman, if the second man come and betroth her, it's meaningless because she's under the betrothed, under the marriage contract of the first one. So the second one is meaningless in that sense. You can say that he's a violation, but you cannot have any effect of marriage. So the Gemara rejected, said, Lord, the Baal, so which means the first husband have relation with the wife when she's age maturity, and now he betrothed her by that manner, and therefore Rav exempt her from the receiving a get from the second one. Either Baal Maitama de Shmuel, so why is the Shmuel hold that way? So for sure she is betrothed to the first one by the biblical term, and therefore the kiddushin in the second one has no effect. Anyone who has a act of cohabitation to one that he betrothed, he has, even they have any deficiency in that process of kiddushin, he has in his manner that the first one, he is in that effect, he doesn't have any intent to reinforce it. So therefore, when he reached that manner of cohabitation, when she reached the age of maturity, he doesn't meant to betroth her by doing so, and therefore she is still under the domain of rabbinic marriage, and therefore she received the manner of marriage from the second one, has a tfisat kiddushin biblical, and therefore she needs a get from that. But it's also disputation only once. If someone make a matter of kiddushin of betrothed, but he put a stipulation, he put in condition, for example, he said, I'm taking you as long as you don't owe any vow in the past. I'm taking you under the oath that you don't have any blemishes in your body, etc., etc. So you put a condition to that effectiveness of the marriage. Uchnasastam, and therefore you have no stipulation, no preconditions, and therefore all of a sudden they find out it's like you have a matter of business, right? You're buying a property and you don't check it enough, you don't check it with title company, for example, and then all of a sudden you realize that there is a list of violations and is a fine and is a money owed, etc., right? Versus if it's clear and free by the court system that give you a certificate, right? So that's the difference. So you put a condition, then later on it turns that she was hiding from you all kind of things, such as blemishes, such as vow that she committed before the marriage. Rav amar tzricha imenu get. Rav hold that she needs a get because that matter of betrothal is in effect, and therefore they are married couple, and she needs to receive a get in order to release that marriage. Ushmuel amar ena tzricha imenu get, because basically the condition was not fulfilled, therefore the whole matter of betrothal is not in effect, and therefore is no chalot kiddushin, is no matter of betrothed between the two. Rav amar tzricha imenu get kevan nasva achu le'achal elitnai. Since they under the chuppah, without rejection of that condition. So therefore, it's already we have the assumption that he forgave his condition, his stipulation, and therefore it's taken effect. Says no, she doesn't need a get because he has that precondition and he doesn't meant to let go this type of precondition. So tzricha. So the Gemara said, why you need these two disputations? Because they have the precondition of the first marriage. And therefore, since you have the manner of cohabitation with her without spelling out, without expressing this precondition, we have the assumption that he forgive this condition in order to have the chalot kiddushin, in order to the fulfillment of the marriage without the condition. So therefore, that be'ilah, that manner of cohabitation, does consider any illicit relation, not bilad znut, but here maybe he agreed with Shmuel that he have the precondition as a manner of betrothal, otherwise it's not taking the fedvit. So therefore you need to do disputation between the two. Just let's finish to the Mishnah. Neresh is the name of city. It was an orphan girl that betrothed when she was a minor, and she grew up. They put her in apirion. Remember we said that it's a special wagon they used in those days. They put a fancy gown, they put it in that what is it called? A horse and the wagon. Make a fancy litter. What? A litter. A little fancy wedding. Mm-hmm. So they want to transfer her from her mother's house to the husband's house. Is another man came in, grabbed her and married her on the way. So how you treated that case, right? Because remember, all the concept of marriage by the minor is rabbinic. Rav Huna v'Rav Chanel Tamdei de Rav Havu Atam. So the student of Rav was there, the two rabbis. They didn't require a get from the second one. So you see here that it wasn't cohabitation when she grew up because she was betrothed, and only now when she grew up they put her in that apirion. And so marriage was a different manner. They used to marry their wives and then they have cohabitation. Rashi Amar, even she will not cohabitate with the first one when she grew up and she wasn't betrothed him by the biblical term. Why we don't require a get from the second one? Who asash shelo ke'organ, because he grabbed a woman from the potential husband after she was betrothed to him by the rabbinic term. Therefore it's a measure for measure. The sages basically abrogated the manner of betrothed. Even in a general term, it can have chalot kiddushin. We understand that the sages have the power to annul, to abrogate it, to expunge that matter of kiddushin when the husband did it to his wife with a matter of money, which means he gave a transaction of money. So therefore you have a retroactive understanding that he gave it as a matter of gift and not in a manner of betrothed money, that this is a condition, I give you this money in order to become my wife. Kaddish b'biyamai, how about if it's a relation between the two? So if you have an intercourse, so how come the sages hold that they can have the right to abrogate this manner of betrothed while it was made in a manner of cohabitation? So they said, guess what? The rabbis treated her, this is manner, as be'ilat znut, which means that it's a matter of the lascivious sexual act, which does not create a bond of betrothal. So basically we hold follow Rabbi Eliezer, that he hold that the minor is instructed to make a declaration of refusal, and therefore he can make ייבום with the older sister.
Shuloi malachai shuloi malachai